This is our summer reading series. This is the third time we've done this service. Folks really like it. It's pretty popular. We've got a lot of readers in this group. Kat is away visiting Ryan's mom this weekend, and she was disappointed. This is her favorite service of the year. And Mandy, too, who's recovering at home and had explicit instructions not to come to church today. So this is the third year that we've done this. It's changed a little bit. Dick suggested to me that he and I only share one book apiece to be fair to others. So I got a little taste of what it must be like to be you. I brought only one book to share. I want to give just a brief little preamble. I have a goal this year, and to some of you who are voracious readers, this may not seem like a very large goal, but I have a goal this year to read 50 books. And I'm just over the halfway mark. I think I'm at 28 or 29. So I'm trucking along. I'm doing pretty well. More than half of these books that I'm reading, I will consume through audio. They will be audiobooks. I drive a lot because I live, 40 minutes from here. I take a lot of long road trips. So that gives me a lot of time to read on the road. There was a debate going on a year or so ago on social media about, did audiobooks count as reading? And my initial reaction to this conversation, and it's still the reaction I have, is that to say that listening to audiobooks is not reading is remarkably ableist for a number of reasons. If you have a visual impairment, if you have dyslexia, if you just don't have the leisure time, like sitting and reading a book is a luxury, right? So of course, audiobooks are reading. I refuse to entertain arguments to the contrary. And if you listen to an audiobook and you get the gist, you retain the information, you've read the book. So that's the end of that for me. The book that I brought today to talk about is Rest is Resistance, a Manifesto by Tricia Hersey. Tricia Hersey is the founder of the NAP Ministry. The NAP Ministry is, it started on Twitter, actually, but has become a full-scale movement with retreats and sort of spiritual events that they hold. Tricia Hersey is a Black scholar who specifically has expertise in liberation theology and racial justice. One of the things that I love about this book is that it is a phenomenal intellectual unpacking of the idea of productivity in this country and how productivity has really poisoned us, and how productivity is a byproduct of both white supremacy and late stage capitalism. There is a real strong trend in this country to connect our worth as human beings to our productivity, to how much we can accomplish in a day, to how hard we work at our jobs, to how much we do. I know that I fall into this trap a lot. I don't know if any of you can relate to this feeling. Jess is saying, yes, me over here. It's a really toxic thing. And as Unitarian Universalists, we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every human being. And there's nothing about how much a human can produce or how productive, what does that really even mean? There's nothing about that in this value that's foundational to our faith. She ties rest very specifically to the dismantling of white supremacy and racial justice. She is a liberation theologian. She considers rest to be a form of reparation for Black folks whose labor has been stolen from them for hundreds of years. At the same time, she's very explicit in her insistence that rest is not only for people of color, rest is for everybody. We are all trapped within this system that equates our worth with our productivity, and we all need to learn to rest, to really, truly rest, what that means. She has a caveat, and I think it's at actually the very beginning of the book. And this is a very meditative sort of tome. She returns to the same things sort of over and over. Rest, we often think of rest. Someone says, take a break, and we rest so that we can recuperate and return to productivity, right? When you finally need a break, I'll take a break and then I will be able to get all of these things done. She is very explicit that that is not what she wants us to do. That's not the point. The point is not to rest to be more productive. The point is to rest, to center yourself in your body, to dream and to meditate and to envision, to connect with your ancestral realm. It's just such a remarkable text. And someday there will be a longer sermon. I had a Soul Matters group a couple months ago where I talked about this book the whole time. There's so much in here. I listened to the audiobook and then I purchased the book and have returned to the text over and over. That's something I like to do. If I really love a book that I've listened in audio, I will buy it in paper. But that's my recommendation. Rest is Resistance, a manifesto, Tricia Hersey. And if you can't remember all that, remember NAP Ministry and Google that. Okay, there's my one book.
Thanks for your restraint, Emma. Words don't flow out of me as well as from Emma and many of you, so I'm going to read mine. Recently, I read a very difficult subject about gender dysphoria. This is a book called Time to Think by Hannah Barnes. She's a BBC investigative journalist, and she recounts the story of the National Health Service Tavistock Trust Gender Service for Children's, the rise and fall of this service. Gender dysphoria in early adolescent kids and how to treat it is a very controversial topic, especially in this country. It's become quite a political football here, which I won't go into any of that. The Gender Identity Development Service, or GIDS, started in 1989 in London and moved to the prestigious Tavistock and Portman Trust in London in 1994. It provided psychological support for children with gender distress or confusion to see if the problems persisted or if they abated with time. The numbers at that time when they started were small, 12 to 24 a year. In 2000, GIDS, partly from pressure from activist parents groups, decided to use the Dutch protocol. This was used in the Netherlands primarily in kids who from an early age found they were preferred to act and dress as members of the opposite sex. Most of them were emotionally stable and had family support. The protocol was blocking puberty with an injection that prevented the pituitary gland from stimulating the gonads to produce estrogen in girls and testosterone in boys, starting as early as age 12. At age 16, cross-hormone therapy is given, testosterone to girls, estrogen to boys. And then at age 18 or later, breast and genital alterations could be done. At Tavistock, the kids were referred to a pediatric endocrinology service for the medical treatment, and they always accepted what Tavistock said about what should be done. The determination to refer for treatment was made after a minimum of 4 visits. The puberty blocking drug was made to be a time to think before the physical changes of puberty occurred. It was thought to be reversible, but more information has shown that delaying puberty can lead to growth impairment, height impairment, and less bone mineral formation, which is prominent in adolescents. Virtually all the clients given puberty blockers went on to cross-hormone therapy. The Tavistock Trust and GIDS were given the National Health Service contract for gender dysphoria assessment for all of England. The numbers of referrals then exploded and long waiting lists occurred. In spite of greatly increasing staff numbers, the caseload per therapist was very high, more than many of them can handle. The majority of the clients had a variety of emotional and mental issues in addition to gender dysphoria, problems including neglect, abuse, parental divorce, OCD, autism, eating disorders. Some had homophobia in themselves or from pressure from their parents. Thought was better a transgender boy attracted to the opposite sex as compared to a homosexual attracted to the same sex. Often clients were referred by puberty blockers rather than dealing with these issues with more extensive therapy. The author spent about 1,000 hours interviewing patients, families, and GIDS staff with concerns about all this. And most of the book is case studies on individuals and as they related to what they went through with this whole process. When staff raised concerns about these issues, not enough time, maybe being rushed into hormonal therapy, they were often construed as personal attacks as supervisors and nothing changed. Some staff compiled formal reports about what was going on, but their concerns were not addressed. Also, there were no or very, very poor follow-up of those that had gone on for hormonal and surgical treatments. The scientific data for this whole process of young adolescents in terms of risks and benefits was very weak. There were financial pressures as well. GIDS share of Tavistock income rose from 6% up to 25%. So they really needed became dependent on that kind of income and process. In 2021, an NHS study reviewed the results for GIDS procedures and outcomes and gave its lowest rating as inadequate. In 2022, the NHS announced GIDS could be closed in 2023 and replaced by smaller regional centers that will offer a greater focus on mental health. I think the bottom line from the book is that young kids with gender dysphoria who be carefully evaluated and treated for underlying emotional and mental problems before undergoing hormonal and surgical treatments. It's been found that probably the majority of teens that present with gender dysphoria later on become true homosexuals and drop the gender dysphoria. It's not an easy read, but very educational for me in terms of finding out about this whole problem and the processes and controversies.
Dick, I'm going to share that you came to me on Thursday and you said, I've read this book and it gave me a lot to think about, but I'm a little hesitant to share it because I understand that it's very controversial. This is a topic that is very important and very personal for a lot of our membership, and transgender rights and trans justice is an issue this congregation really cares about. And so he was hesitant to share this. He didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. He didn't want to cause any sort of fights or drama. And I said, well, I think it's a very nuanced topic. I think we get very either or, black and white in our thinking, when really the whole world is gray. I'm aware of this particular institute and the history of this institute in the UK. It was genuinely very controversial. There was, I think, real evidence of malpractice and this sort of idea that treatment for gender dysphoria was kind of a magic pill, right? When often there are all of these other comorbidities that really do need to be addressed and treated. We also, I asked Dick, do you think this book was biased? And he said, well, yes, to a degree, because the majority of the anecdotes within the text are negative, right? And so you're obviously getting a very small picture of this entire years-long endeavor that happened at this particular clinic. And then I said, I actually spend a lot of time consuming media from sort of the other side, right? You might be surprised to learn I listen to a fair amount of conservative talk radio because I want to know what they're talking about. I've read quite a few of Bill O'Reilly's books. They're terrible. But I want to know. I want to know what they're talking about. I want to know what the folks that I'm in debate with, I want to know the extent of their argument, right? And also, I care a lot about trans youth, and I do think that there's nuance there. And texts like this, Time to Think, are important. I have a lot of emotional energy around this. My partner is trans. But I still, part of like growing up and becoming an adult is remembering that the most of the world is gray. Nothing is black and white. So I'll be driving to Colorado next week, and that's the first book I'm going to listen to on the road. I'm really curious. And that journalist is one who I actually enjoy and respect. BBC journalists are kind of a different breed. So now I've talked about 2 books.